This is Matthew Cratter from Bitcoin University, and today I wanted to talk about a central bank that's in the process of banning Bitcoin, closing the exits, and what this might mean soon in a country that you live in. So we hear a lot from very wealthy billionaire investors, for example, like Steve Eisman from The Big Short, that Bitcoin has no utility. We've heard this from Warren Buffett too, that Bitcoin has no utility, Bitcoin has no value. But the real irony here, or the real paradox, is if that's actually true, why is it that so many governments want to ban it if it's just worthless? Could it be that people like Warren Buffett are suffering from a bit too much first world privilege when they say that Bitcoin has no utility? If you're living in a country like Argentina, where 12-month inflation has been over 100%, you might find Bitcoin to be very useful. And this is a use case that Buffett and Steve Eisman and these guys never mention. In Friday's video, I showed a chart of Bitcoin denominated in Argentine pesos, to demonstrate that it was hitting new highs in the local currency. It's continued to hit new highs, but I got an interesting note from one of you, from Sebastian, saying that the 7 million ARS, Argentinian, I guess it's the Nuevo Pesos, that you see in the chart is inaccurate because it's calculated at the official exchange rate and no one can actually transact at that exchange rate. So the actual price is about 14 million. So you can take this chart and basically double it. And you can see how Bitcoin is exploding in terms of Argentine pesos. Now, what we learned this last week is that the central bank at Argentina has just banned the purchase of all crypto, including Bitcoin, through banks. And there are a couple of banks that are in the process of beginning to offer this, and they are now banned from doing it. We can see here it says the Monetary Authority banned operations that allow bank clients to purchase crypto just days after two large institutions announced that they would let clients buy Bitcoin and other digital currencies. So this is what we're talking about. We're talking about closing the fiat financial exits. I'll link in the description notes below to the official statement. You can read it in Spanish or read it in English as it is here from the Central Bank of the Republic of Argentina. And there is an interesting side note here. The measure ordered by the BCRA seeks to mitigate the risks that operations with these assets could generate for users. In other words, we're doing this just to protect the people of Argentina. This is clearly a lie. They're doing it as a way of shutting the exits and making sure people cannot escape. There was a tweet from BCRA that, if this is being translated correctly, says that it looks like you will still be able to buy Bitcoin if you carry out the operations on your own. You're just not allowed to use any of these banking or web platforms. So this implies you could still trade Bitcoin legally in person, but this is a huge blow to people trying to escape from the Argentine peso and protect their savings. Now, this is something I've talked about in previous videos. In this video, Shut the Exits, Boil the Frogs, about financial repression, as well as this video from about a month ago called Shut the Exits, Turn on the Money Printers. I'll link to both of these in the description notes below, but I wanted to mention here exactly what I mean by shutting the exits. This is what governments and central banks will do in a crisis situation, a financial crisis, where they're attempting to prevent any form of capital flight. So in this case, they want to prevent people from exchanging their Argentine pesos for US dollars for Bitcoin. Because if people exchange their ARS, the Argentine pesos, for US dollars or Bitcoin, what it does is it weakens the ARS even further and accelerates the doom loop. When you have very high inflation, it does help the government because it helps to erase their own debt levels by growing the economy through inflation so that debt to GDP levels come down. But the thing is, someone needs to be left holding the bag, and that bag is Argentine pesos, government bonds, etc. And these massively lose their purchasing power, especially when you have very high inflation, like 100% per year. Closing the exits forces people to keep holding the bag because someone needs to hold circulating government debt or cash. And so they want to make sure that people cannot escape. So basically, if a situation like this, it's very similar to where the US is headed. We're not quite there yet, but you have government fiscal policy plus central bank money printing causes high inflation. And then those same people try to stop you from protecting yourself from this high inflation that they caused. They try to stop you from protecting yourself by converting your savings into Bitcoin. So central bankers, you can really think of them as like arsonists who burn down not just your house, but then they also try to burn down the local fire station, which would be Bitcoin in this analogy, so that you cannot exit. This is something they already did with the US dollar about a year ago in Argentina, where traders were restricted from converting their Bitcoin into dollars. This is just another capital gate, as well as this reminded me a lot of this original quote from Christine Lagarde in January of 2021, where she was basically arguing, and I'm sure she still believes this, even though she should be in jail for all of her corruption. You can Google that. But she said that Bitcoin needs to be regulated globally because if there is an escape, that escape will be used. And this is what the people of Argentina, they're trying to escape from the havoc and disaster caused by their central bankers. But we should be quite aware that central bankers are aware that they want to stop us from using these exits. This is how evil they are. This is also why it's so important to keep accumulating Bitcoin while it's still easy to do so in most countries. Now it's no longer that easy to do in Argentina. Perhaps a day will come in the next 5 years or so when it will no longer be that easy to do it in the US or Europe or Canada or Australia, etc. And would a global ban on Bitcoin actually stop Bitcoin usage? I don't think it would. I think this is something that's very, very difficult to stop. It's difficult to stop data packets from moving around the internet. Governments have never really been able to stop people from using something that those people really want to use, whether that's dollars, physical gold, tools of self-defense, cannabis, and other drugs, etc. This question always comes up: what if I'm blocked from using my CBDC to buy Bitcoin? In other words, when the US dollar goes completely central bank digital currency, maybe they won't allow you to exchange it for Bitcoin at large exchanges like Kraken or Coinbase if they're still around. So what do you do if you're blocked and you can no longer buy Bitcoin? And by analogy, you can no longer sell your Bitcoin if they won't allow it on exchanges. They're very simple workarounds. So for example, if you have government fiat CBDC money, you would just buy an object with it. Buy a lawnmower, buy a small car, buy a pack of paper towels or toilet paper, whatever it is, and then you would sell that object for some Bitcoin to a Bitcoiner. In this case, you'd sell the lawnmower to a Bitcoiner for some Bitcoin. If you'd like to think through what hyperinflation might look like in the US, I highly recommend the book Mandibles, which I review here. I want to thank Matt Odell for bringing that to my attention through his various tweets. But this is a really good book, and it looks at the period of 2029 to call it 2049 in the US and tries to envision what it would look like if the US went through a period of hyperinflation and government fiat currency debasement in the same way that Argentina is going through it now. So I encourage you to check out Mandibles, and you can check out my review of the book here in this video, which I'll link to in the description notes below. If you found this video helpful, be sure to hit that subscribe and like button. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video. And let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.